well, I'm going to introduce Irene, for those of you who don't already know.
Too late.
Yeah, you know Catherine, you know Joe, you know everybody else. Okay. All right, well, you guys are in for a super treat this afternoon, because Irene is like the listing queen, so she's going to have great insights into how to get the job done. And she has a ton to cover, so I am going to pass it over to you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Lizanne. Thanks for coming, guys. I know it's sometimes hard to get here, and I commend you for putting some effort into your businesses, because what you do in here is what you'll do out there. So it's always good for you to be working in here and then take that out. This format is slightly different for me, so I'm going to do my best to make sure that I cover all of the material. This is a really big session. I hadn't taught this one yet, so when I sat down to prepare for today, I realized how much information is in it. And on top of that, they want us to practice for 40 minutes on you guys doing a 40-minute listing presentation, so 20 minutes each. I don't know how much of that we're going to get to. I'm hoping that we're going to get to at least a little bit of practice so you guys can read this stuff. But the important thing is once you're done here, you have this, right? So you have this to take home. Make sure to read through it. Is
Are you going to give us something to take home?
No, this is just the manual.
Oh, this is the...
I've brought more stuff, of course, but no, this is what you have.
On
This is just the Ignite material.
Uh-huh.
So, word of warning, even though there's some stuff that's Canadianized in here, I still found a little bit of American stuff. So if something looks really weird, like you haven't come across it before, and Kathy, I'll do my best when we come across it, to point it out to you, because you might not know what's American. I mean, obviously we're a province, not a state. We don't have seller's disclosure statements that are mandatory, so there's a few things in here that are still a little bit Americanized. Do you want to be different?
Oh.
Okay, so get in your head of the game, and that teaches you the activities that are proven to generate results. And by focusing on those activities, your success will grow and expand. Who's done Ignite before? Is this your first time? And your first time. You're a master at everything.
No. This is my first time. Be gentle.
Ah, well, you've done bold.
Yes.
This is bold light. So,
Right.
yes, yeah, you're good. How are you guys doing with your calls? I was talking to Joe about that. How are you doing with your actual mission days and your actual lead gen? Who's doing it? Ooh, excellent. Then you don't raise your
I
hand.
don't know. I have never called. I don't know what is it.
I don't
cannot
care. I don't
myself.
care. It's lead gen.
Okay, so I do.
You do? Okay, so where's your hand? Count everybody. So everybody's been doing it. Okay, so you guys are calling, you're knocking, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you're doing something, you're talking to new people, and then following up with the old people, right? So it's so just let me hear from you guys. Is this new? Is lead generating new to you? I know some of you have been around for a little while, and you've been doing it. Give me an idea of how it's been going for you. I guess, Kathy, let me start with you. You're brand new.
Yeah, so this is very new to me. This weekend I had to do a lot of calls for a new listing that was coming up on today, or no, yesterday, Tuesday. So I had to do it. So I just went and did it with the Thanksgiving weekend as well. So it got easier, my script got better. I even got a bit of my own personality into it, and I think that was it, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Just so that I could feel a bit more comfortable. And now I'm just focusing on my own social sphere and letting friends know what I'm doing now, and if they know who they know that is looking or to buy or sell, just put my name out there. So, yeah, so I'm still doing I'm just trying to get my license as well. So.
Right. Oh, okay, so you're technically not even supposed to be talking real estate with people.
Yeah, so all I do is just let them know about the open house. I wasn't doing any selling.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
nothing
Okay.
like that.
So you're off the hook for a little bit. Who else? Who else has had, what's that?
You can still lead gen for a license.
You have to be careful in what you say, right? Because technically you're not supposed to be
Yeah.
talking
Numbers.
or trade.
Yeah, but you can invite people to an open house, that's fine.
You can, yeah, absolutely.
Which
And
is
that's
still lead
what
gen.
he did. I was really careful. I had a script and Holly saw, and we went through it, just what I can say, what I can't say, so.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious because Saturday I'll be doing the open house with Lisa. And so it'll be interesting to see how much traffic that generated or has.
Right. Cool. Who else has some stories from the last week or two?
So I'm door knocking. I've been circle prospecting now this week I am in my own neighborhood where I live in Leaside with my little shopping cart and I'm food drive collecting food, and that has been the easiest door knocking I've ever done because my Leaside neighbors are more than generous.
Yep.
And they all have a hate on for what's his name?
Doesn't matter, we know who you're talking about. We don't name names in this class.
They all have a hate on, so it's been interesting to hear their comments, and yeah, so that's been good. And you know, they're long-time residents. They not really want to make any moves, but at the same time I'm trying to work. Who else do you know? And a referral for a business that's knocking it out of the park.
Oh, that's smart. That's
So
great.
I'm collecting, one lady, the first gal I talked to this morning, even 5 businesses.
Wow.
She
Great.
was just like,
That's
I'm like,
terrific.
I can't write this fast. She's like, come back next week. I'm like, fantastic, I will.
Wow, that's
She-
amazing.
She gave you 5 businesses for,
Yeah, so I'm building a database of businesses of outstanding customer service
okay.
that I can then give to my clients as a referral.
I love teaching because I always learn. I have to write
So that's a
down.
So what are you,
That's a bold exercise, right? Build your phone book.
so what are you
Yeah, but
asking?
that's like a little twist on
So
it.
I'm creating what I call the L pages. And so it's my phone book of preferred businesses that I can send a customer, like, oh, you need a vet? Here's a vet, here's a, that I feel, so then in the winter, I'm gonna make sure that I go and introduce myself, figure out ways to build that network, ask them for referrals.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Do you know Kirby Chan?
Kirby Chan, I know the
He's
name.
Newmarket.
Newmarket.
Aurora.
Yeah, Richmond Hill, Newmarket.
Yeah.
He does a lot of Facebook stuff.
He does a lot of Facebook
And
stuff.
he does a similar business to business where he builds up that network of businesses and asks them for one referral
Yeah,
a year.
that's right.
Like one referral a year.
One referral a year. That's right. So that's what I'm all about.
That's great.
So you don't know that you ask?
Yeah, what are you asking?
So I'm door knocking with, under the guise of, I'm from Much Property Group, Keller Williams. Our entire brokerage is collecting food right now for daily bread. And then I've transitioned into, man, I love my neighbors. They're so fantastic because they're coming to me with an armful of food.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, wow, what's your name? How long you been here? You guys are amazing. Can I ask you a couple of questions? Who would you recommend, or who would you refer that's looking to buy or sell the next 6 months? I'm not getting much there. I did get a little old lady down the road, but when I talked to her, she's like, no.
That's true.
Right?
You know what?
So she's a nurturer.
She's gonna go some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So.
It's true.
Listen, everybody has
Everybody.
to sell eventually. They die, they get married, they get
Retirement living.
promoted, demoted. Like everybody moves eventually.
Yep.
If they're older, they're gonna move sooner.
That's right.
I mean, maybe not these days, but yeah. So you know, I do want to keep going, but that's, I mean, coming to the door, the food drive. We just finished our food drive, and local businesses. I think that's awesome. So for all of you guys that maybe, do you have a farm there yet?
No. It's my first, yesterday was my first day in that area.
So you might want to consider a little farm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's blossoming as every day.
Who else? Anybody had some successes? James?
Facebook ads. It wasn't even an ad. I started doing a lot of social media stuff just to get some responses from people who might be interested. And I just made a post on Facebook. And a friend of a friend reached out and said that they were moving to Toronto in the next few months.
Cool.
And they needed some help. So I was amazed. That was a better response than I didn't get on the paid advertisements. So it
Right.
was just
Well,
through-
because it's the relationships, right? I mean,
it was
the
through
paid
the
ads.
series,
Yeah.
yeah.
Welcome. Hi, what's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Me too. Did you do any lead generating last week?
Yeah, I did the same thing, almost same as James, but I did it on a social media, like on a phone social media. So I kind of just asked like because there's a group that I joined on social media, and I just started to add every single person, and not really everyone yet, but I added like 20-something each people, and then there's 2 that actually contact me for leads, one for rent and one for buying.
Okay, so just you young'uns, make sure you don't mistake that for lead gen. That's what you do. I mean, you're doing a little bit more personal stuff, so you're reaching out to people, but make sure that that stuff you do in addition to other stuff that you're doing. Don't, like Facebook ads, I wouldn't call that lead generating. You reaching out to people individually on Facebook, I think that's a bit more personal and that's relationship building, that's a little bit more lead gen.
The easiest way I can compare it is when you cold call, for example, you have to get a list of people to cold call, right? Facebook advertising works similarly in the sense that I pay to reach X amount of people. But I mean, out of the people that you call, some don't pick up, some don't want to talk to you, and some end up being leads. The same way with Facebook ads. Most of the people don't ever respond. Some do, they're not interested, some respond, and then you can have a nice conversation, right?
Cool.
But the principle is the same, creating a relationship.
Okay, so you guys did find your business, right? That was the last one. Build your business, find your business. Right? Build your business, find your business. So now we're at the appointment stage. So you found somebody and you actually have an appointment. So this is the opportunity for you to get a listing. And we know that you have to list to last. That hasn't changed in 40 years. So listings provide you more exposure, bring you buyers and their time leverage because you spend a lot less time on a listing than you do with a buyer, especially a buyer in this market, right? So we're going to do a quick video. Who here knows Gene Rivers? Anybody?
Joe Rivers?
Gene Rivers. Gene Rivers is from Tallahassee, Florida. He's been around for close to 30 years in real estate. He's amazing. He's got the business planning clinic here November 29th. Do you guys know about that?
No.
In Oakville. It's just been announced. Penny McKenzie's office is hosting it at the Oakville Conference Center. Go. November 29th. It's usually like $99 or $149 or something. It'll be the best money you ever spend. It'll be the best day you ever spend. Who here has done a business planning clinic? Okay. Don't let the words scare you. Yes, you do have a business plan as part of that day where you work on numbers and work out what you want to do. But it is really just a very small component of the whole day, and especially with Gene Rivers, he's just such a wealth of information. He's funny. I go to see everything he teaches, doesn't matter what he teaches, because there's always something to learn. So this whole day will be, it'll focus on appointments, lead gen, your business plan, and just so much more. So make sure you make the time to go there. So he has, I don't know what size team he has now, it's been up and down. He says that he's probably hired and fired close to 200 people in his career. A really big team at one point, and then it shrunk. He does a ton of business in the Tallahassee market. So, okay, he's Tallahassee, we're Toronto, right? But it doesn't matter, you can just listen to what he has to say, because he's a smart guy.
Hi, my name is Gene Rivers, and I'm here today to tell you how to develop your listing skills to a very high level. And after you've done that, you'll be able to go in and take over market share. Number one, the best source for listing leads is from your sphere and past client list. The fact is, the people you know the people that are going to be moving, whether it's at church, school, work, friends, relatives. Focus on making sure they understand you're in the listing business. Create a pre-listing package that you will give every seller, but rename it your guide to selling homes successfully in your market. And then give that to people in your database that you know have influence, that's collateral materials that they can give to their friends and refer you. Step two, focus on an area, product, or price range. When you develop mastery of a product or an area, you will much more quickly succeed in those areas. And in that area or in that product or price range, focus on the FSBOs in that area, the expireds in that area, door knock in that area, geographic farm in that area, and I'm talking a fairly tight area, so that the people in that area will really, really identify with you as someone who can help them sell property for top dollar with low hassle in a short amount of time. Now we're at number 3. Everyone today that's looking at hiring an agent, whether it's a referral, even a past client, or a stranger who's got your name somehow, they're going to check you out on the web. So you need to make sure that your website is competent, that you've got basic, powerful content in there, and specifically that on the landing page, the very opening page, there is a direct offering to a seller. Find out what your home is worth, get a guide to selling your home. But if you don't do that, you're going to miss opportunities because people will get your name, check your website out, and go, I don't think so, I've seen a lot better sites. Fix your website with a database that you are working on a consistent basis, and with a tight focus, you build your reputation. If you're visible, you will find you will take over more and more listings, and in a very short amount of time, 12 to 24 months, you will own that market. That's how you take market share.
There you go. Gene looks much better than that in real life. Okay, so focusing on listings. So pre-qualifying the seller. Who has had a listing? Mariana, you've had listings. Who else? Joe, have you had a listing yet? Anybody else? You have. Okay. So, what's that?
In my dreams.
It's getting there. Don't speak on reality. Who pre-qualifies? Do you do pre-qualifying of your seller?
Seller?
Yeah, pre-qualifying before you go on the appointment. Do you?
Pre-qualify for seller.
I guess that's no. Mariana, what do you do?
Well, I do in person. So like my listing appointment is always in, like I go in person to pre-qualify. I find it better, and then I tell them I'm going to come back, and then
Oh,
I can
that's like
listing. Yeah. So
Okay.
I ask like before I come over, I have the script which I practice at Carmel.
Okay.
Pre-qualifying script, and most of the time I follow all the questions. I have answers what I have or not.
Okay. So,
But I do it like in two.
so you do it. So it's essentially a two-stage listing appointment, right?
Yes, two-stage listing appointment.
Okay. So it's not really pre-qualifying. You're just doing it at two-stage. So,
Two-stage, yeah, and I ask those pre-qualifying questions.
right. That sounds like a lot of time that you have to spend to do that.
Yes, yeah, if I
I guess I didn't understand what pre-qualify is. When I to list a house, of course I'm doing my homework on the area, on the house.
You're doing, hello everybody.
Realist.
You're
but-
doing the checkup on the seller before you come. So in
When
your
they want to
material-
leave,
What's that?
when they want to be on the market.
There's a few things. So you want to confirm, and this is actually right here in here, you want to confirm important details, including their motivation to sell. Hi, Laura, welcome. And what's your name?
Lam, L-A-M.
Lat, nice to meet you, thanks for coming. You don't want to show up and figure out that they're not even really moving for another year or two and they just want to get a price on their house. So you want to ask as many questions up front as possible so that you can figure out, are you really going to go? Sometimes even if they're not selling for a while, you still want to go, right? But sometimes you can get on the phone that they might just be kicking tires, they might just be looking for free information, and you showing up there for a full listing appointment might be not the best use of your time. Right? Hi, Adam. Hey, Joshua. Everybody's showing up now. And it says here, it also helps you avoid your time on those who aren't truly serious about selling their property. Sometimes you might even figure out that they might just be using you for a second opinion because they really plan to list with their sister, mother, cousin, brother's, brother-in-law's wife, whatever, right? Yeah. So-
Don't mistake that for not an opportunity, right?
Depends. It depends. It could be. Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
it is an opportunity, right? So don't discount it just because you're planning to list with somebody else. I'm sure it's happened before that somebody had a plan and then it was an issue.
Potentially, yes. There is potentially an opportunity, but at least you're going in there knowing that. And you can base your presentation for that, as opposed to going through your whole presentation and you figure out they wanted to list with whatever relative was in the background to begin with,
Right.
right? So it's essentially it's a conversation. So Mariana, with the goal of getting to know the seller better, so that you know how to prepare. So, do you guys have your manuals? Were you guys asked to bring the pre-listing package and the listing presentation? No?
No.
Okay, all right. So, on your page, what page is gonna be for you? It's the list of pre-qualifying questions. You guys have that? No? Lots of people don't have anything.
What page is it, or? does it say
Well,
13?
for me, it's 14, so it's gonna be
14.
somewhere in there.
It is 14.
Is it 14 for you as well?
Thank you.
So it's just a sheet. You can use the basic one in the Ignite manual. I created my own from having gone to Bold. Who's been to Bold here except for Leslie? Joshua? Okay, so do you remember the pre-consultation script in Bold?
I don't remember exactly, but I looked at it.
Okay, so in this one, it is a very short version. It is very, very basic. It's going to be better than nothing. How did you hear about me? Where are you moving to? What's motivating you to move there? How soon do you need to be there? Figure out, because when you say where are you moving to, they might say, oh, I'm not moving yet. And then that leads to a whole different set of questions. And James, depending on these questions, you might still show up to the appointment because you want to build a relationship. Then you're not going to show up and spend an hour there. You know, you might spend 15 or 20 minutes there just to get to know the seller a little bit. If they just want an opinion of value on their house because they're just curious, depending on your level of busyness, I mean, I personally wouldn't do that just because of the amount of volume that we deal with on a regular day-to-day basis. But for those of you starting, it's a good experience, it's a good opportunity to establish a relationship and build it. And depending on when they're moving, you might just be the person, if you stay in touch with the property, to come to top of mind when they're actually ready to sell.
Because you did do the legwork.
Exactly. Yeah, except if you're going to do that, make sure to stay in touch. Follow up. Right? Just don't call them every week, because if they're not moving, they're going to turn them off. But yeah, if somebody says, well, I'm going to be moving in a year, don't wait a year to call them. Call them in 6 months. If they say I'm moving in, whatever number they give you, cut it in half, sometimes even less than that, because they might think they might be doing something in that time frame, and something changes, and if you don't call, and if they don't remember you, because just because you were there, doesn't mean that they're going to remember who you are. You have to keep in touch, keep in touch, keep in touch, keep in touch. 70% of the business is in follow-up. So a few more of these questions. What's motivating you to move there? How soon do you need to be there? If somebody says to you, do you know what, I just got a relocation and I have to be in my new job in 60 days, that's a really motivated seller. Right, so again, you structure your presentation when you get there based on that. But if you don't know this stuff, you don't know what you're walking into. Right? This is so you know what you're walking into so that you can prepare, both mentally and in paperwork. This question, you know, you can sort of decide whether or not to use it. If we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? So for us, 30 days, that's on the long side now. But, you know, knowing this, if they don't have a place to go, they might say, yeah, 30 days is really fast. I need to find somewhere to move to. I'm downsizing, I'm upsizing, I'm whatever the answer is. It gives you an idea of timeline. What would happen if your home didn't sell? That's not an option. I gotta sell. It's different than, don't care. If I don't get my price, I'm not selling. Right? So again, just very, very different approaches that will help guide what you do when you actually get there. So this is one that's really important to know, and it's not always one that you're going to get an answer to. So there are several ways to ask this question. What they have here is, how much do you want to list your home for? What do you think your house is worth? At what price do you want to put it on the market? There's so many different ways to say that. Some people will tell you, some people won't. Some people will say to you, well, I know what I want. I want to hear what you want. I don't want anything. Right? And sometimes you need to ask that question a couple of times during the conversation to see if you can get the answer out. Sometimes you just won't be able to figure it out. and they say, well, I want to know what you say. And you can say what you think your house is worth isn't going to influence what the market says it's worth. And I just want to figure out if we're in the same ballpark. Because if your expectations are way above what the market is going to give you, then it might not matter what my presentation is if you want more for your house than it's actually worth. It's going to take some practice for you to figure out how to ask that. You should definitely, before you can pick up the phone to do this, you should be looking them up on GeoWarehouse, on MPAC, see if you can find an old listing. Is it a semi? Is it a detached? Is it going to be worth 800? Is it going to be worth 2 million? Try to at least get a ballpark so you know what you're talking about. You might not have the specifics about the house, but at least you know what is it and where is it and what's the one down the street that's sold. Not that you want to get into that conversation on the phone. You certainly don't want to get into a pricing conversation on the phone, but at least give yourself the background knowledge and give yourself some ammo, at least mentally. How much do you own the property? That's not always critical to know up front, although it is important to know at some point, because we've been very lucky with our market. We don't have any houses that are upside down. Do you guys know what upside down is?
You own more of a mortgage than the house is worth.
Right, exactly. Now there are a few cases right now of homes that were bought at the peak last year. The people are trying to sell this year for the price they paid last year. And they're not having much success. No. There's a few of the prime areas, they can still get away with it, but a lot you can't. Now, we're not a very highly leveraged market. We don't have really that concern or that risk, but it's still pretty good to know. If the house is worth 800 and they owe 7, maybe they refinance to do renovations, maybe they refinance to take some money out and pay some other loans. So it is helpful to know. So my pre-qualifying script, and I'm going to hand this around. I only have one. I have no idea how many people are going to come. So just to give you an idea, so there's 8 or 9 questions on here. I have a lot more. And what you do definitely want to ask is, what is their house like? And my question on this is, will you quickly describe your house for me? How they answer will also help you understand how they behave, how they think, what their disc profile is. Who knows what the disc is here? Anybody else? James, Leslie, you want to tell us?
I say that it's somewhat of a personality profile in terms of what your characteristics are, how you operate, whether you're very high driver A-type personality, whether you're a very emotional, or very analytical. Is the best way I can describe it. I don't have the exact headings in the top of my mind, but
D is driver, I is influencer, S is steady, and C is, I don't know, it's the analytical. So that's a good thing for you guys to check up on, because that helps you understand the behavior pattern of somebody. If they're a high D, so if they're very you don't want to be spreading out your presentation over 2 hours, because you'll lose them, for sure. And even if you have good information, it's the mirror matching as well. It's kind of matching your personality to them. If they're really fast and they're talking at an elevated pace and they cut you off, just make it short and sweet. Whether if they're flowery and happy and everybody has to be friends. Yeah, absolutely. So when you ask them to describe their house, if they say, well, it's detached, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, finished basement, it's very different than, well, we have this lovely crown molding and we renovated 5 years ago and everything's so beautiful. Gives you an idea. And how would you rate your home on a scale from 1 to 10? Gives you an idea of how realistic they are about what's going on. It'll help you with the pricing as well. What would make it a 10 gives you an idea of what they think might need to be done to the house, and then you can decide whether you're going to do it before listing or you leave it for somebody else to do. So the way I approach the pricing question is, when we see you, how much do you want to list your home for realistically? And I say, well, I don't want to tell you, but you know what? As professional realtors, we study the market and we'll bring you the relevant sales comparable listings, however you want to word it, that are most similar to your house. So it's helpful for me to get an idea if your idea of value is something that meets the market. And there's different ways to ask that. At below which price would you not sell? You can just keep asking it different ways until you get some sort of sense, if it's at all possible. This is, I think, really, really important. Have you considered selling it yourself or using a discount brokerage? Because again, that helps you. They might very well say yes, and you might know why it's better for them to hire a realtor, but at least you know that, and you can bring that animal with you when you sit down with them. Something I'm going to put in here in that sentence is, have you considered selling it yourself, using a discount brokerage, or do you have a realtor in the family that you're considering using? Because again, that helps you. This is also helpful from a process standpoint. If you had to rate sale, length of time on the market, commissions payable, and convenience during the showings from 1 to 4, could you rate them for me? Right, because that also helps you understand where they're coming from. Really, really important, you want to figure out if you're talking to other realtors. Even if it's a past client, so for those of you that have been around for a little while, even if you're talking to a past client, you might phrase this sentence differently. The way I like to say it from our experience, some people in your position feel it necessary to interview multiple real estate agents. Is that the case with you? And if they say yes, can you give me an idea who you're talking to? Sometimes they will, again, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll say to you, okay, I'm talking to Leslie and I'm talking to Danuta.
But why would that help you? Why would you want to ask?
Because if you know who they're talking to, you know who your competition is and you can do some research on them. Not that you want to come in and slam them, right? Because you don't want to be disparaging, but if it's a big team and you're an individual, then you can focus on the personal aspect of it. If you're a big team and they're talking to an individual, whatever you find out could be a relevant benefit to you. That's always, I mean, sometimes you don't even know them, so it doesn't matter, right? But I find it's helpful. And then, so the pre-listing package, which we're going to cover in a minute, you should be sending that ahead of time. Who does a pre-listing package? Do you? What about you?
I'm working on it.
Sending something is better than sending nothing.
Yes, that's what I.
Yeah, absolutely.
You send that
I want
before
my-
you meet.
Yes.
I want mine perfect, that's why it's still in process. And someone
It's-
said it's better.
It's
I
better
need
to
it
be
not-
there than to be better. James?
Can you just give us a little rundown of what you might send in a pre-listing package?
Yeah, that's coming up.
versus- Okay.
Yeah, that's coming up. That's the next one. I'm still working on the pre-consultation. Package, the reason I brought it up here is because you want to send this first, then you want to do these questions. Because one of the questions is, have you had a chance to go through my pre-consultation package? Right? Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no. So I brought a sample of ours for you, so you can take a look at it. But even just the basic one on my KW is perfectly good. Do we have any guests here, or is everybody KW? No? You have a guest? What's that?
I'm still a guest.
Still a guest. Okay, wonderful. Well, you'll have access to my KW soon. Another really important question. When we meet, are all of the decision makers going to be there? Critical, because you don't want to meet with the wife if the husband makes the decisions. We had a case at the beginning of this year where I asked that question and she said, no, I'm doing the interviews. My husband doesn't need to be part of this decision. That's not how she said it, but she said, I'm doing all of the interviews. Met with her a couple of weeks later, went and met, just had a chat with her husband. And even with that, she ultimately said that the husband made the decision.
Really? Or somebody else?
Yes. So we didn't even have like a chance to present.
Wow.
So, but listen, it's real estate.
Yeah.
Right? You can't ever control for everything, but make sure you ask that up front. Because if they say, well, if she says, no, my husband's only home in the evenings, then you know what, I'd love to have an opportunity to speak to both of you. So why don't we reschedule for a time that you are both available? Right? That's important. So I'm gonna pass that around. If you guys want to give me your business cards at the end, I'll make sure to email you a copy of that.
Or can we take a picture of it?
You're welcome to do that.
prefer email.
This is the same thing that's in the,
No, a little bit different.
No,
it is.
no,
Okay.
what's in here is what I read to you.
okay,
It's very, very short. There's 11
questions.
11 points.
Okay,
right, whereas mine is 2 full pages.
okay.
And the thing is, I'll send you the soft copy so you can adjust it. Like, you're not gonna wanna
Yes,
speak the
exactly.
way, right? When I did bold, the questions were worded so strongly, I thought, oh, that's not me. I don't sound like that, right? Yeah. Okay, any questions so far? Let's, actually, let's talk about pre-qualifying, this pre-listing package. We talked about pre-qualifying, so. Any questions on pre-qualifying? You guys get it? You understand why it's important?
So, interesting that you send the package before and then you call them with pre-qualifying. Why do you find this more helpful?
Because I want them to have a better idea of what we are, how we work, and what we do.
Before you pre-qualify?
Before, yeah, because I also want to know if anybody else sent it, right? Because they might say, oh, that was an amazing package, nobody else sent me that, right? So I just want to get a sense of, did they get it, did they read it? Because ours is 30 pages long, right?
Not at the table before.
Not, I then bring it because then it becomes my listing presentation. So I send it first and then bring it. Because a lot of the marketing that we talk about is in here. Nope. Okay. So talking about the pre-listing package, the pre-listing materials are specifically designed to build the seller's confidence in you, right? Because they don't know you. And especially if you're new, you want to make sure that you put something together that makes you look professional, right? So they have a clear sense of what they can expect from you. To answer some of their questions and objections in advance of your presentation, in our pre-listing package, we actually have a whole sheet on commissions. You get what you pay for. So we can figure out if that's something that's important to them. Some people are very, very focused on commissions, others aren't. So in the pre-qualifying questionnaire, when you talk about what's important to you, then if they don't even mention commissions, because they don't care, they're smart, they know that, they might know that if they get a good agent that's going to charge full commission, they're going to get a better price per house. Some people lose sight of that completely and they only see the 5%, 4%, 1%, whatever it is that they see, and they get so fixated on that, that sometimes, no matter how good you are, it's hard to get them out of it. So if you know that up front, you know that you have a commission objection coming, at least you can prepare for it. And a strong pre-listing package will make the consultation experience smoother, probably shorter, because you're answering a lot of the questions ahead of time. So when I say I'm sending you our pre-listing package, I call it the consultation package, it will answer a lot of your questions before we get there, so that when we get there, we can just talk about you. Now, we still talk about marketing, we talk about product wings, we talk about all that stuff when we get there, but a lot of that is in the pre-listing package.
What is the delivery of the pre-listing package? Do you hand deliver it, mail it, email it?
Well, we rarely mail it, because that takes too long. We do have a hard copy, so if we have the time and opportunity, we will actually send them a hard copy. I will ask, because some people don't want to waste paper ever, so they don't want to get anything sent. We do have a link. We used to have a PDF of it, and we converted it to a link that's attached to our website. So they just click on it, so there's no PDF attachment being emailed. Yeah, so it's all there. I do tell them I'll send you the link and I'll bring a hard copy with me, just to save them printing, because that's wasteful. Plus, it's not going to look as good, right? They're going to print it out on their old home printer. Okay, so pre-listing package. So does everybody have access to this on MyKW? Did you guys look at this, Joshua? Did you look at that? Do you have a pre-listing package you send out?
No, I don't.
Do you plan to?
I'd like to, yes.
Yeah? Okay, so for you, because I know you do a lot of business by referral
Yeah.
also. So when I was talking about making sure that even if it's a past client that you do this pre-qualifying, because sometimes we have the inclination to think that because people know us or because they've done business with us in the past, that they'll just naturally use us, and that's not always the case. So even when I'm talking to somebody who we've worked with in the past, casually, like if like for our AA list clients and for our people who are our advocates and they send us tons of business, I wouldn't ask these questions. But if we work with somebody once in the past, or even twice, I'll say, hey, you know what? I know we've had a great experience in the past, but as part of the business presentation, I need to know, are we just going to list the house, or are you talking to other agents as well? And sometimes they'll say, oh my God, I've never talked to another agent as long as I live, and then, or they'll say, oh, you know, I'm kind of thinking I should do my due diligence. I hope you don't mind. I'm sorry. I said, that's fine. It's entirely up to you. But then I know. And all of this stuff comes from experience. I had one case. This was years ago. It was a U of T relocation, so we sold them the house. And 4 or 5 years later, six years later, they called and they said, "I just want to get an idea of what the house is worth." Okay. I don't know. I might be looking for something bigger. I don't know. Just want to know what the house is worth. So I came over, did my comps, and said, okay, so this is kind of what it's worth. And then they called the next day. This is so funny because this was before I went to Keller Williams and Mike Clark and I were in the same office. So they called and they said, you know what, we've made a decision to list with Mike Clark. And I went, oh shoot, that was a listing appointment. I didn't even think of it as a listing appointment because they said, we just want to figure out what the house is worth. Every time you go in, it's a listing appointment. So be prepared, better to be prepared and not use the stuff. Because I didn't even know I was on an appointment. I just assumed we had done business with them in the past, they said they wanted to know what the house is worth, and I lost the listing. Now the ironic thing was I actually sold it to a different client. But still, I didn't get the listing because I didn't ask the right questions. And it's all about asking the questions. And we have more of a tendency to not ask the questions if we know somebody, right? Because you think you know them. Okay, so for those of you that I don't have it with you or don't have it up, there are I think about 7 or 8 pages in the KW pre-listing package. There's not a ton of ability to customize, right? It's very, very basic. So what we did with ours is we put a lot of stuff in about marketing, what we do for marketing, how we do it. We have our sales in here, we have our testimonials in here. That's why it's this thick. Some people love it, other people just glaze over it. But just to give you an idea of what's here, so it's all about you. So everything needs to be focused towards them. None of this me, I sell this, I'm the best at this. You've got to be focused on them because they don't really care about you. Ultimately, it's all about that. So I will help you buy. I'm not going to read everything here because you're going to bore you guys to death, but there's some specific points about what you're going to do for them. And it says, it's all about you. Do you know what? Maybe, since so many of you guys don't actually have this here, maybe I'll pull it up here. Do you want me to do that? Do you want me to actually? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so we're right now on page 16, for those of you that actually have it with you. And for those of you who don't, these are the specific pages of the pre-listing package. Okay. No, that's going to help help you see it much better. But at least you can see where it is, right? You all have access to it. And I'm sorry, what's your name again? Laura. You'll have access to it as soon as you're in the KW. So I will help you by doing these specific things. Get ready to list. So this is really important because we assume that everybody knows that their house needs to be nice. And that's not true. Not everybody understands that. Some people live like they live in a magazine, and some people don't think they have to get their house ready even when they go to market. So what they have here is factors affecting your property, price based on recent sales. So it's really important to help sellers understand, some do, some don't, that their sale price is affected by what's sold in the area and what's available on the market now. It's not based on what they paid for it and then what they put in. It's not based on what they need to get out of it. It's not based on what their hairdresser told them it was worth, or their neighbor, or their mother-in-law, because everybody's an expert. The minute you start talking to somebody about selling your home, everybody knows more than the realtor, which is unfortunate, but it is the reality, because we know less than everybody, so we're in the business. So there's a section here on price, location. Some people don't like corner lots. If somebody lives on a corner lot, they think that's a benefit. A lot of people don't like corner lots. The people that live on busy streets don't understand why somebody else doesn't want to live on a busy street, but that's something that's going to affect their price. Condition. This is so important right now. And in here also, it comes staging, but that's part two. But condition, buyers make their choices based on emotion. First impressions are important. How many properties have you shown when you come up and the grass is up to your knees and there's a broken bike on the front porch and the house is a mess? If that's what it looks like when you get there, it's your responsibility to help the sellers put it into better shape. And help them understand why that's important. Competition. Right now we're starting to get a little bit more in the market in all neighborhoods. Right? So you have to be priced in line with what other homes are selling for. And timing, timing we really can control. But if somebody is very anxious to sell and the market's not very good, then that's going to affect their price and they have to understand. So the next session, the next Ignite session is going to be on pricing. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on pricing, but this is also good if you don't have a lot of other stuff in your pre-listing package. It's good for you to have something like this for sellers to get a visual of what's going to happen if they have a well-priced home, if the house is underpriced or overpriced. For us, underpriced isn't as much of an issue. Because if we underprice and do an offer hold-off date, is that you?
Yeah, sorry.
If you underprice in our market and have an offer hold-off date, the market will correct itself. If you underprice and don't do an offer date, is everybody, do you guys know what an offer date is, an offer hold-off date? Yeah? No? Tasha? No? Are you with this office? So an offer date is when you start showing a property today, but you don't get offers until next week. So the anticipation on behalf of the sellers is that throughout that week, you market the property, you show it to lots of people, and on offer days, you set a specific day, Wednesday at 6, or whatever, on that date and time, you increase the likelihood of more than one offer coming to the table if you've had showings for a week and you've had the property exposed.
Are people allowed to put offers in prior to that date?
That's called, excuse me, I'd like to say the answer will be no, but it's not. Because right now we have a lot of preemptive offers or bully offers,
Right.
which is a very frustrating practice.
Okay.
Offers are next Wednesday at 6, but it's Friday. If you give me an offer that's high enough, I won't wait until Wednesday.
Right.
So some people like to do that. I think for sellers, most of the time you're doing them a disservice. It's a very difficult to sell property, and somebody tries to give you an early offer, then you might want to consider it. But for most homes that are in good neighborhoods and are well priced, we don't like to look at guaranteed offers. because we
So
want the
you
property.
tend to hold off for a week?
We
to
do.
look
That's
at it.
our personal decision. There's lots of realtors that do things differently. Yeah, it's annoying because if you show something to a buyer on Thursday and they're planning to offer on Tuesday, and on Friday you get a call and from a listing agent, and they say, well, we have a bully offer we're going to be looking at Friday at 6.
Right.
You weren't planning to get your buyer's ducks in a row until Tuesday. And all of a sudden, you have to scramble if you want to be part of that competition. So it's frustrating. But there's no rules around that, unfortunately.
So at that point, if there is a bully offer on the table, would you get a sense if there was a lot of traffic, if there was a lot of interest, to just say, sorry, no, we're going to wait till, or speak with the seller about an offer, but there wasn't a lot of traffic, maybe we should think about it or not?
If I get what you're asking, it's a
Yeah.
really good question, because if it's been really, really busy
Yeah,
with a lot of showings, you may, like, ultimately it's always the seller's decision.
right.
But if you've had that activity, you may want to let them know that it's been very busy and they may not want to consider an offer earlier. However, the flip side is you've had 3 showings
Yeah.
in 4 or 5 days, and all of a sudden somebody says, I want to give you a really good bully offer,
Right.
maybe then consider it. So that's kind of, so it's really situational. The real estate board hasn't put anything in place either for either of those. They just say if you're going to do an offer hold-off date, it has to be documented. It has to be seller's direction.
So, so you said the offer date, and you did receive a very sort of a good offer, the one you said. So, so due to the same reason, you instructed other agents that you would take the offer on that particular date. So we need to inform that
Absolutely.
agent that
Yes.
there's an offer.
Yes, absolutely. Which makes it difficult if you've had a lot of traffic, if you've had 20, 30 showings, you're better off to call everybody rather than trying to do a mass email or something like that. But you guys are on Broker Bay, right?
Yeah.
Right, James? Okay, so that's actually, it's an amazing system. And if you do get, yeah, I know, right? We have it too. I love it. It's like so amazing. So with that, you can do a personal email to everybody who has shown to let them know that an offer has come in and there's a change of offer dates. Instead of Tuesday, it's going to be Friday. Right? But you should, in principle, you should let other showing agents know. First of all, because it's fair. Second of all, because you might drum up another offer. Right?
Did you get in a writing that you're going to look at preemptive offers? Does the seller need to give it to you in writing that they will consider?
I
preemptive?
was thinking of exactly that when I said offer seller's direction has to be in writing. I don't know. I don't know, because we don't really consider them. So I don't know. I'd ask your broker of record. Maybe I'll text Philip at a dear broker of record. Joshua.
Sometimes people ask this question. They want to know, what has traffic been like through your listing? Are we obligated to tell them?
It's been good.
So
I don't want to give them ammo. I love it when a listing agent says, well, you know what, we haven't had that many showings. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
Excellent. Thank you for letting me know that. You don't say that, right? But sure, you could ask as a buyer's agent. You don't ever answer stuff like that because it might put you and your seller in a disadvantageous position.
It's amazing what people give up to.
Oh, it's
crazy.
So the flip side to that is if it's been really busy, you also don't want to make it seem like it's overly busy because then that might scare people off. So you say, you know what, we've had a ton of interest. Just keep it, it's been good, even if it hasn't, it doesn't matter. You might consider 3 showings good, right?
Yeah,
You're not lying. Exactly. But if you've had a real stream of people through, don't make it seem like it's going to go crazy because some buyers who don't want to compete, they might just stay away. So you can say, look, it's been busy. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Remember from bold, keep your emotions between the lines. Not too sad, not too happy, just in between. Because then you're not giving anything away.
Right now, we have to put offer, and the person says like, they want to have this closing within 24 hours, the irrevocable date.
Yep.
Now in that case, we have an offer date which is like few days away. So do we need to tell that person like, you need to give us at least 5 days?
No, because then that defeats the purpose of what a holy offer is supposed to be. So you do have a whole class on making and receiving offers, so let's talk about the appointment, and then you can get that answer down. Because we're already an hour in, and I think we're page 15. Oops, we are definitely not practicing. Okay, so before a lot of you came in, I was saying that there's a lot of material here, and Ignite does want you to practice your listing presentation while you're in here. And we aren't even at the listing appointment yet, so let's sort of get back, and what my hope is that once we're done, you will actually be practicing. Do you guys have partners? Have you set up partners in these classes? No? Okay. Okay, so pricing, and this is really important, and it's important for you to understand. A well-priced home creates interest, attracts buyers, generates showings, and produces offers all very quickly. An underpriced home, what they say here, it attracts buyers and may sell quickly, but you may detract buyers who are wondering what's wrong with it. For us, in our market, those agents that like to really, really underprice a house, like it's worth $900 and they price it at $699 because they want to get 25 offers, they might miss the right buyer, and that's not a good strategy. If you are thinking pricing and you want to price it just a little bit under market, it's good, but don't go way under because it really
not that far.
I'm sorry?
Like this is not that far.
We don't disparage realtors in this class. An overpriced home would be evidenced by lack of interest, few showings, no offers, a longer time on the market, and possibly price cuts. The reason this is a good little chart to have in your pre-consultation package is it really starts getting people thinking about price. It really does, and it gets their head into that before you actually show up. So, get ready to sell condition. This is where we talk about staging, standing out from the crowd. I'm not going to go through all of this, but right now, because staging is so prevalent, if you don't do even basic staging, and I'm not talking about bringing in furniture. I'm talking about just decluttering and presenting a house so it looks decent. If you don't do that, it just stands out like a sore thumb. We have a listing in our area that's way overpriced, and the agent knows that it is because you probably saw this. His comments are, "This is a man cave." The whole house is a man cave, and something else. It was like whatever he said. It's like this agent knows that this house hasn't been cleaned up, and he probably thinks it's underpriced. Although he did an offer date. You know what I'm talking about, right? 32 shaver. So I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said they had gone to the open house. They didn't tell me what open house they went to. And they said, it smelled like dog and man. I said, oh, that must have been 42 shaver. She said, how did you know? Yeah, also helps to preview properties, and then you know what everything is. You don't want your house smelling like dog and man, even if there's a dog and a man in it. Questions for you. So, for me, this part is in the pre-consultation package. So I don't have this in the pre-listing package. It's up to you. You may want to ask the sellers that, or you may want to put that in your pre-consultation package so that you can ask them that when you meet them. A little bit about you. You gotta have something in there about you, right? For us, here I'll start passing this around. For us, most of that is about us because what I want to do when I get to the house is talk about that. So we cover. We've got everything. If you were new to real estate, I've been at this for 27 years, so I got a lot to say. Not too much. If you're just starting, you're not going to have a lot. You can put a little bit about you and then put office stats. Talk about how well this office does in the neighborhood, or borrow from somebody else that you're partnering with. But you want to give people at least a little bit of an idea about you. Okay, Josh Bath is awesome. He's from Vancouver. I can't remember. He's from so let's hear him. It looks like this picture is good here.
Hi, I'm Josh Bath from
Okay.
Vancouver, Canada. I'm with Keller Williams for 8 years and selling real estate for 18 years.
So clearly something's up for technology. Please watch this.
What browser are you using? Chrome? Is that Chrome?
Yeah.
I think if you press below, I think it will open up.
You what's right?
If you open the video you just play.
Yeah. Oops. You know what? Just watch the video. It's quick. Hang on just a second. Now I've lost. I had the manual up here.
Back to Chrome,
Yeah.
that one. And then wait a second, just don't go over it.
Well, that's what you're supposed to.
Click it. There you go, and then the
Oh, that
tab,
was it.
tab at the top.
No. I think I'm here. I'm here.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So you've pre-qualified your seller. You realize that you do want to go on this appointment. You know what they're all about. You have an idea of what the house is like, so you can do accurate comparables, or as close to accurate as you possibly can. At least you know, is it renovated? Is it not? Does it have parking? Is it a 2-bedroom? Is it a 3-bedroom? Is the kitchen renovated? Whatever. So at least you can do the research and bring reasonably comparable listings. So Mariana just left. As far as 1-step or 2-step appointments, we do a 1-step because of timing. You know, for us, having a 2-step appointment really takes a lot of time. If the house is very unique and different, if it's in a really high price point, we will always do a 2-step because houses in that upper tier are all very, very unique. They're harder to price. For a lot of houses, we'll just do 1. If you're just starting out, you may want to do 2. And you may want to say, you know what, we're gonna talk, I'm gonna take a look through your house, we're gonna talk about some marketing, and then what I'd like to do is go away, now that I've seen your house, once I've seen your house, and come up with a good property evaluation for you. And that also gives you, especially if you're new, it gives you a chance to go back to the office and talk to people you might know. Right? Your client doesn't have to know that. Joe?
How many comparables is a good amount of comparables?
It depends. I'd love to have 3.
3.
Sometimes you have so many, you don't know which one to pick from.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a stretch to find 1 or 2.
So do you, for the comparables, do you use the most recent sales in the area? Like what do you use?
So again, pricing is next session, so
Yeah.
we won't, we won't do a lot of that, but the answer is it depends. It depends on what's happening in the market. So like we usually do, we try to do 3 months.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do 6 months, right? But in July, August of last year, you couldn't do 3 months because the market at the beginning of the year was so different than it was in the middle of the year. So you have to understand your market. And if there's not a lot of good comparables, sometimes you want to go back a year. The market was similar. So right now, pricing things from a year ago is very safe because it's virtually the same market. But in March of this year, you couldn't compare to March of last year because they were vastly different. So it really depends on where you're at in the market, in the whole thing. Okay, so the actual listing appointment. So for those of you who have done bold, you'll understand some of this. For those of you who have not done bold, please go do bold. Okay, first step is tomorrow. Who's going? That's it? Really? Kathy, you're not going?
I'm still studying for my license.
Right. Yes,
I will be going.
I would suggest, yes, that you get licensed before.
I have priority.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I think Leslie would attest. Robin, the agent on our team, she actually did it before she got licensed.
Yeah.
And it was,
With my hat on.
yeah,
I was day 2 when I started.
well, you were already licensed.
No, I wasn't.
Well, you weren't.
I was
Oh
a
my
month.
gosh.
I was a month into Bold before I had my license. She put me into Bold on my 2nd day working with the team.
Right. It's better for you.
With my hat on.
I
There's
just
a lot
want
of
to get my
really
license.
Yeah, like I had no idea. Talk about overload.
Yeah.
The first time when I came in for the first hour, I was thinking, oh my gosh,
What
those
have I
people are crazy. Room full of cycles. I swear to God, I thought, okay, I'm leaving. These people are crazy. At the end of the day, I was like, my name is Tanuta, now go!
on steroids. It
Yeah.
really, like, where Ignite helps you build that habits for lead generating, Bold just throws you in the deep end and says, go swim until you make it, essentially.
It's true.
And it's tough. Yeah, it's tough. My very first Bold, I was this close to quitting.
But right now we're doing this, I think.
Yes.
And then we're gonna do both at the same time. Like I have a hard time going through the whole, this is a lot of information.
Right.
It's a lot of.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody's reading it, but I'm trying to read it every day, and it's a lot of work.
I don't think I'd do Bold and Ignite at the
No.
same time.
No.
No.
No, I don't
it's-
recommend that.
No, no, I
She's
would,
gonna be so overwhelmed, she's gonna.
yeah,
So,
finish Ignite, put the habits into place, do your time blocking for lead generation, figure out what you're gonna do when, and then do Bold in the spring.
okay.
Because Bold is a lot.
Yeah.
It really is. It's, the premise is that you have to make 20 contacts a day. And that doesn't sound like a lot.
No, it is a lot.
It's a lot. So for me, when I door knock, I'll give you an example. So yesterday I door knocked for an hour and 15 minutes, and I made 12 contacts.
That's good.
And but I go at like 5, 6 o'clock at night. I go at dinner time. I don't go in the mornings. Right?
Now-
Because I want to find more people.
Those 12, are they all like worthy of the pipeline, or
No.
some of them, no
No.
thanks, not interested?
No, I just can't contact.
Yeah.
The week before, I did an hour and I got like 13 or 14 contacts and 1 meeting. Yeah, I might sell.
Right.
But for me, I might have to make like 50, 60 contacts before I find somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
what-
especially-
what would you consider a contact? Like meaning like, yes, I wanna keep in contact,
No.
or it's just
No.
because,
Hi, my name is Irene. Do you want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Yes, no, that's a contact. It's not children, it's not nannies, it's not grandmothers who don't speak English. It is having a discussion with somebody, either face-to-face, on the phone, via text. If I send a personal text to Laura and I say, hi Laura, are you thinking about buying or selling? And you say no, that's a contact. If you say yes, that's a contact and a lead. But right now, there's so few people that are moving that you have to talk to a ton of people to find somebody who wants to move. And then you have to make sure that they don't have a previous agent, or they have a family friend or someone in the family. So when you find somebody that wants to move, then you have to make sure that they have an opportunity of working with you. So you have to talk to a lot of people. Anyway, 20 is a lot. It's a lot. And if you're on the phone, you're cold calling, you might have to make, I don't know, do you guys cold call?
Well, I did do both, yeah. I did do
So when you're
I
on the
do, in the
phone-
winter I will.
So on the phone, how many dials
Oh.
do you need to make to have, like, to get 20 people?
A lot. A
Yeah.
lot.
A lot.
A lot. A lot. You're talking,
Doesn't matter. It's a lot.
A lot.
So 20 contacts doesn't sound like that much, but it is. Now, you're standing in line, you start at a grocery store, you start talking to somebody, chat, chat, chat. Hey, my name is Laura, I'm in real estate. Do you know anybody who's looking to buy, sell, or invest? And they say yes or no.
no,
It's called a contact.
that
A contact is a two-way
No, I always
discussion.
thought a contact is the one who give you, here's my email and the
No.
phone number, and let's keep in touch.
No. The only people whose information you should be getting are those that are thinking about buying and selling, will consider using you, they don't have to promise using you, you know, if their brother's in real estate, I don't know, because you might be standing at the door and they'll say, oh yeah, my cousin's in real estate. Right, but would you use them when you're selling your house? Oh no, I'd never use them. But you have to ask that next question, because we can assume that if somebody says they have a realtor in the family, they're going to use them. And if you don't ask that next question, they might say, oh my God, I'd never use them. Or they might say, well, I'm obligated to use them. Say, would you be open to a discussion so that I could show you what my team, whoever, what we do to help sell homes? So if they even consider you, great, let me jot down your email and phone. They don't have to say yes to you, they just have to they say maybe. Right? Or if they're not buying or selling, but you've established a good relationship with them, you could say, Laura, if somebody you knew had to buy or sell a house, do you have a realtor that you would recommend to them? And they'll say, well, no, not really. Great, can I stay in touch with you and just send you periodic information so that you think of me first when you come across somebody that might be moving? That's what goes into your database, and they just go into your sphere, your mats. And you gotta keep calling them. you know, every 3 to 6 months, hey, you talk to anybody who's moving? Right? Because not only are you looking for people who are moving, you're looking for people who might refer people to you.
This is really difficult when it comes to the contacts. You get like real contacts, like phone number and email, but some people they're thinking to move in the next 2 years, or people that just recommend you, and then you have a bunch of people in your list all together, and then how do I split the groups? You know, like
Well, what are you using for your database?
nothing.
Well, that's the problem. What office are you with now?
Royal Beach.
So you have been using nothing for your database? Okay. So, well, until you
Pen
come,
and paper.
right, well, paper something. When are you coming over to Keller Williams?
Maybe this week.
Okay, so you can at least start on e-edge, because that lets you quantify people into different content. Not quantify, quantifies numbers.
Categorize.
Categorize, thank you.
You can group it as
What's
well.
EA?
E-edges are our existing CRM
Oh,
until KW Command, which is our next stage of technology, gets unveiled, which should be for us, I think, by early next year.
And everything in eEdge is going to just automatically populate into KW Command?
eEdge is our existing technology system that you get as part of your technology package with KW. So it's like whatever your 50, 60 bucks a month, whatever it is, that part is $15. So it's already in place. So that's a really good question. So you figure out, are they a buyer? Are they a seller? You know, are they just your sphere? Are they somebody who you think might refer you business? So make sure you categorize them, or else they do end up all in one lump. That's no good. How long have you been licensed?
I got my license this year in April.
Oh, okay. So at least you don't have like 10 years of history of
No.
clumping everybody together.
Oh. Well, I do have a lot of contacts that used to have a business.
Okay, so you're starting with a good base.
But not everybody's thinking to buy or sell.
That's okay. They don't have to be. They don't have to be. So the format of this is actually not something, the order of this is not something that I like to do, because they want you to walk through the home right away, and I don't like to do that. I like to talk to the sellers and talk about our marketing and our program before I go through the house. So greet, listing presentation, walk through the home. So thank you for inviting me here to apply for the job of getting your home sold. That's very nice. It's very direct. What I like to do is, I go in. The kitchen is where mostly everything happens, so either the kitchen or the dining room. Make sure not to sit on a couch, because it's very awkward. It's very awkward to present on the couch, whether it's kitchen or dining room table. Hi Mariana, thank you so much for having me over to your house. Can I set my things down in the kitchen, dining room, wherever? Great, so what I'd like to do is just sit here and have a chat with you first. Then I'm gonna tour the house. And then we're gonna talk price and fees. All right, so you set the expectation up front. The reason I like to do that is because I do want to get to know them a little bit better, which is what you do before you actually do your proper appointment. I then go through a lot of my pre-qualifying questions if I didn't get the right answers. I find out what's important for them in an agent, right? That's really, actually, come on, let's do this. Setting expectations, that's important too. We're going to cover that in a little bit. Oh, I see. Okay. Get to that in a second. Creating a great impression to build the seller's confidence in you as their real estate expert of choice. Pricing recommendations, I do leave that to the end. Because if you guys aren't in agreement on price, and you start with price, they're not going to hear anything else that you're saying. Because if you've told them 800 and they think their house is worth 950, they're not going to hear anything that you're talking about. They're not going to hear your wonderful marketing. They're just going to think that you don't think the house is worth what they do. Right? You might still get to that point, except if you go through your whole presentation before that, you can reference that and say, you know, we talked about this in the presentation. So always leave the price to last. So, when I sit down for my appointment, I think, is that, do you have the consultation package there? Yeah, great. I referenced that first. Did you have a chance to look through the whole seller package? Because that will help me understand where they're coming from and also give me an idea if they've done their homework. People are really, really serious, they'll do more of their homework. They'll read through that. I also ask because I find for a lot of people, they've listened to so much of this stuff, they don't always want to hear every single thing that's in there or in here. They just want the overview and they just want to know what it is that you're going to do to get their home sold. So lots of questions. I start with, if we could make this the best experience for you over the next hour and to maximize our time, what would we have to cover? What's important for you?
So you would take it as a 1 hour presentation? Do you think?
It's really long.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, you don't want to be there for 2 hours if you're just getting an idea of the value of the home. This is where the I don't think you were here for the pre-consultation, right? The questions? This is where the pre-consultation questions come in so important because you don't want to go through all of this and sit there for an hour or 90 minutes if they just want to, if they've been honest with you. Like, I mean, I've had people say, look, I just want to get an estimate of value because we're getting divorced. All right, and they're honest about it. We had one appointment where we went through the whole presentation and the wife called me afterwards and said, I have to tell you that the house isn't going to be sold. We're divorcing and my husband wanted to know what it's worth because he wants to buy me out. I want him to buy me out because I don't think he's going to give me a fair price. I wanted to let you know that because I didn't want to be dishonest with you, which is awesome, right? Now, he did end up buying her out, but he took so long to do it that he had to pay her another $150,000 over and above what we valued the house at whenever we were there. And she was so impressed and so pleased with all this that we helped her through this whole process, that not only did she buy her next house through us, but she gave us this glowing recommendation and testimonial. She actually, in her testimonial, said they did all this work even when they knew they weren't getting our listing, which is nice, right? I mean, but sometimes you don't even know that. They don't tell you, right? Especially if it's a divorce, they don't want to disclose those issues to you. But knowing all of this up front will help you when you're at the table with them to figure out, are you going to go through everything? Or are you just going to cover the basics so that they can get the information you want, you can stay in touch with them, whatever it is.
So in that case, you just tell her, or I think your house is worth this much, or you give her something, or what did you do? When she told you that she just wanted to get the value?
Oh, sure, then say, you know what, is that for certain you just want to get an idea of value? Then do a quick walk through the house and give them a price and say, you know what, if things don't work out with whatever you're doing, I hope you consider me for the sale of the house, right? Because if you try to make people do what you want them to do if they don't want to do it.
So you still go to the house, probably.
So, you know, again, you missed this part at the beginning, it's going to depend. It's going to depend. Do you want to establish the relationship? Do you want to have a possible follow-up for the future? Right? So it really depends on the situation. But asking did you see the pre-consultation questions? Okay, so asking that up front will help you understand what you're going to do when you get there. Okay? So, questions. Some people want everything. They want stem to stern. They want to know in every minute detail what you're going to do, where you're going to advertise it, how many flyers are you going to send out, how many doors you're going to knock on. Actually, that's not true. I tell them how many doors I knock on. They say, you still go door to door, really? Actually, door knocking yesterday, and the woman said to me, is this what the market's come to? You have to do it. She was very nice about it. And she said, really, is that what you guys have to do now? I said, yeah. Get more houses for sale, for sure. Some to say, you know what, I don't care. You guys all do more or less the same thing. In which case, I won't gloss over our marketing. I will still give them the highlights, and I will let them know how proactive we are, that there's going to be more than just putting the house on MLS and putting a sign in the yard. So I won't go through every single thing, but I'll still give them the overview. I'll hit the highlights so that they have at least a good idea of what's involved. And some say, yeah, just, you know, show me. What is it that you're going to do? right? And then you have to be prepared. So for you guys that don't necessarily have a listing presentation, here, they call it a guide to selling your home. Okay, so this is page 27. And this is all customizable. So here, for you, confirm appointment time, show up on time or a little earlier, better to be early than late. Have a copy of the listing presentation. Make sure not to have your script notes. If you print stuff out before customizing it, make sure you don't have your script notes there.
Would this be what you would make your pre-listing package from?
Well, this is what KW says should be your listing presentation. I would certainly take some parts of this and put it into my pre-listing package. So, I mean, you saw how long ours is, right? The pre-listing package that they have here is pretty slim. I would certainly, because there's some good information here, I would certainly take some of it out and put it into the listing package, for sure. So, covering, did you have a chance to go through the pre-listing package? And there are some scripts here that I really, really like. So when you guys are practicing, make sure you cover this. You can make it your own, but this is really, really good because it takes the pressure away from them. It makes them feel that you're not going to put the pressure on them to make a decision with you. So we have 6 goals, several goals. Let me explain what 1 of 3 outcomes could be, and this is all in your material. You may list your home with me, and that would be great. You may not list your home with me, and to be honest, maybe that wouldn't be so great, but I also need to figure out if we're a good fit. And sometimes you may want me to list your home, and we might not want to do that. So you kind of give them that option. They're like, oh, well, why would you want to list my home? Yeah, right? They're already thinking that, oh, you're not going to pressure me? Right? Oh, okay. All right. They say I may be unable to take the listing. I may not want to take the listing. It may not be a good fit. Right? Now, when you're really, really new, you may not have the confidence to say that. You can find different words. Right? Listen, when you don't have one of the listings, let Leslie probably think of the word that I'm thinking. You have a greater tendency of possibly taking an overpriced listing, which is not great because even in this market, an overpriced listing isn't going to sell.
But is it because of the seller, their personality or something, or is it the house that you don't think you could sell the house, or is it just...
It'll be price.
It'll be price.
It'll be price.
Oh.
That will be really, unless somebody is really, really terrible to you,
Right.
and most people aren't.
Right.
Like, I mean, I don't know, if you get to the house and there's, the guy comes to the door in his underwear and a wife beater, I don't know, maybe you don't want to get the listing done, but that doesn't happen very often.
Well, it's just that you say I just want a clarification around fit, what does that mean? Is it just the problem between the price, or is it, because personality, yeah, you could deal with that, but if they want it up high, it goes against what you...
Yeah.
I mean, if we were to even say that to them, maybe, we might consider not taking or listing your home. If they question you about that, I mean, you kind of have to give them an explanation.
Sure,
as to why.
yeah, absolutely.
Right,
You know what,
so.
if the price that you want for the house is way more than what I think the market will deliver, it's going to be better for us to part friends, and you call me in 60 days when your listing with the other agent expires.
Right.
Right? Because we are getting expired listings now. It's not like it used to be. So pricing is really, really important. And sometimes you're going to be wrong. You're going to think, oh, that's way too much money, and somebody else takes it at that price when it sells. Or you can say, I don't want to buy your listing. This is what the market is saying it's worth, but the other agent said it was worth more. Right, the other agent might price it higher and then work on you to reduce the price until you agree. Right, so we should put that idea into their head.
If they want to reduce the price in a short time, then you can get it like that. If that's what they want, until they figure out they cannot sell it, then you have to reduce the price.
So goals to cover, these are good too. Discuss your motivation, define what your 10+ experience would be. If they've sold before, what was your experience? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like? What did you not like it? Clearly, they didn't like a lot because they didn't call that last agent, and you're there, right? So it's important for you to know that. Review what you can expect from Keller Williams and me, explain the selling process, review the factors to get your home sold, and decide if we're going to work together, right? And if you set that up front, you kind of have this, okay, so when we're done, we're going to figure out if there's a fit. You're going to figure out if there's a fit with me, I'm going to figure out if there's a fit with you. So we touched on this, but ask lots of questions. The more questions you ask, the more you know. Don't ever assume you know what somebody's saying, even if they answer you. Tell me more about that. Why is that important? Describe that to me a little bit better. Because we all, and I mean me after 27 years, I still have to remind myself not to assume.
It's probably harder for you than it would be for me as a new agent because you've seen it all, right?
I was 15 years in before I realized I hadn't seen it all.
Right. Right. But for me, it's like, okay, I gotta remember to ask multiple layers deep, make sure I cover my bases, right?
Right, and you know, I'm going through this with Robin right now. She's getting a lot better at asking questions. Robin's a newer agent on our team. And I said, so what did they say? And she said, you know, they answered. And I said, what'd you do then? She said, okay. Oh, you got like 3 more questions to ask after that. Just don't ever assume you know what somebody's saying even when they give you an answer. Just got to be digging more for motivation. And it can be as simple as, well, we need 3 bedrooms. Oh, okay, well, you know, you have 1 kid, so you have 1 bedroom for the kid, 1 bedroom for the office. Well, no, because we're actually going to have another child, right? You just made an assumption. Or, oh, are you going to have another kid? No, we actually can't have any more kids. Right? Well, right? So don't ever assume you know what the answer is. And you know what? Let's say the more I do this, the more I don't assume.
Right.
Because there's so many different situations.
There's a million possibilities.
Right? And everybody's different. And you just don't ever know what somebody's thinking or what's going on in somebody's life. And we're getting into the most private and personal recesses of everybody's lives. So if it's a happy sale, there's, you know, more personal stuff, but it's happy stuff. When it's not, whether it's death, divorce, whatever, sickness, you know, then you really have to be careful how you ask the questions. You still have to ask the questions, because you still have to know. Right? Don't assume. Affirm their responses with great, that's wonderful. Don't say that's wonderful if they say they're dying, right? Just use the information.
Appropriate script.
Yeah, but you know, make sure that you go through the scripts here. They're very short, they're very good. Make sure that you always write down the answers, not only because it makes them feel important, makes them feel like you're listening, you're gonna forget. Like by the time you're done, if you haven't taken notes, it's like, what did they say? Yeah, just write everything down. Absolutely. So then we get into some of the stuff that you've already covered in your pre-consultation package, except now you want to go over it again. So just remind me, so again, if you were talking about this a lot, don't ask them the same question you already answered twice. But if you only have 1 conversation with them, and you know what, when we talked on the phone, you said you're moving because, or you're moving to, or whatever, can we just confirm that? And also, when you're talking to somebody about pre-qualifying on the phone, you've only talking to one person, and then you have the 2 people in front of you, you might get a different answer, a more elaborate answer from the other person that's there. So make sure you ask it again. Then time frame, pricing again, that's, you know, what I say, because I already told them that we're going to talk about them, we're going to ask questions, we're going to go through the listing presentation before I go through the house. This is when I say, I've brought recent sales and currently listed properties with me, so we'll go over the value of your house once I have a chance to look around. This is the other reason that I don't want to look around, because then they can start getting at me for price. If I haven't seen the house yet, I haven't seen the house yet. I have to see the house first. So once I go through the house and once we go through the sales, we're going to talk about what the market says it's worth. Do you have a price in mind for what you want to list at? So whether they told you that, I mean, if they told you that on the phone, it's still a good chance to ask, because again, you have the other person sitting there. You know, you talk to the husband on the phone, and he says, yeah, probably, I don't know, $1 million, $1 million. The wife thinks it's worth $1.4 million. Right? He didn't ask her. Didn't have to ask her. right? So again, it's a good time to talk about price. Again, they might tell you, they might not, right? But if you don't ask, they won't tell you, ever. And are you staying in the area? Yeah, well, that depends on what your other questions were. Delivering a 10+ experience. So what they do in this presentation, and you know, I don't know, I think this is overkill. So for me, I would just say what will give you a 10 out of 10 experience. They go into 10+ and 10++. I don't know. I think when you ask for what a 10 experience will be for people, this is good to ask whether somebody's a first-time seller or not. If they've sold before, you know, again, this is where those questions come in. Do they have a really good experience and why? Do they not have a good experience? Because whatever happened, if you didn't have a good experience, you want to make sure you don't do it, right? Especially if they told you about it. A little bit about Keller Williams Realty. Again, if you're new, that's a really good thing to focus on. Largest real estate company in the world. I'm in one of the top offices in Canada, etc., etc. Talk about why you joined Keller Williams, because that comes from the heart, right? Global reach, local expertise with global reach. We just opened another office, I think, this week, Trinidad and Tobago. That brings us to 19, 20 countries, I think more than that. Yeah, we're in a lot of spots. The app, I wouldn't concentrate on right now until it works better in Canada, which hopefully it will be, James, right? By the end of the year?
I think January.
Yeah, I think by kind of reunion, we should have it in general circulation. What you hear from me, so make sure that you listen to their answers when you ask them what's important to them, because that's what you're going to focus on in what you get from me. Because then you can talk specifically to what their needs are. And if they don't know what their needs are, if they've never sold before, then you can concentrate on communication, experience and expertise, marketing. You know, if you have a global powerhouse behind you, Keller Williams, you've got a lot of marketing opportunities. And pricing, we've covered already. Technologically speaking, because we do have the ability to do everything DocuSign, not everybody's going to want everything in big books, right? I think focusing on technology is great, focusing on e-signing is great. If you're dealing with an older person that may not have access to technology or may not want to use it, don't focus on that as a selling feature because it won't be for them. If you're talking to seniors, then everything's in paper, everything's in person. You're going to get the personal approach. Everything is a lot slower. Decisions are going to be slower. So there's no point talking technology with a senior unless they're, you know, junior, senior, and they're somewhat savvy. And you know, even if they're older, so you can say, you know what, for you, technology may not be important. For us, it's very important. So we do a lot of that. Just move on. Suite of technology tools. Again, if that's something that's important for them. Staging. Who stages their houses? What that is? Do you have a dedicated stager, or is it?
Kevin's certified stager.
Oh,
We
cool.
get it in-house. It's all in-house.
Very good. So you have that as part of
It's part of our
salary package.
Yeah.
That's great. Who else? Mariana, you doing your staging? Okay. Danuta?
No.
It's important. You know, again, referencing if you don't, you're going to stand out. Satisfaction. Our relationship is dependent on meeting and exceeding your needs. This is another script that you should remember. Mark this one down. My cancellation guarantee protects your right to end our relationship if you're disappointed. Make sure you put a caveat on that. Say if there's something that you're not happy with, could you let me know so I have a chance to fix it? Say, I'm going to let you out of any contract, but talk to me first. Let me know what you're unhappy with. Let me know if it's something that we can rectify. The home selling process, part of what you should know is if they're a first-time seller or not, definitely. Explaining the selling process is really important. So servicing and marketing, offers and negotiation, and contract to close. So the servicing and marketing is what gets people in the door. The offers and negotiations are the contract that you negotiate that will be in your, that we negotiate for you that will be in your favor, not the buyers, and contract to close. So that's important too. Once the deal is done, there's so much stuff that happens between the time the deal goes firm and the time the buyers get the key, right? And you need to be there for them. You need to know what that process is going to be like. You need to explain it to them. If you're new and you don't understand that process, you've got to talk to an experienced agent that can walk you through that. Even if you partner with a lawyer who can walk you through that. We're lucky in Canada, we don't have as much stuff going on between contract and closing like they do in the US. In the US, I'm just going through it right now with a property in Florida, my head's gonna explode. We do have it pretty easy in the grand scheme of things because we don't have a lot of stuff that can go wrong between the time the deal is firm and closing. But you need to help walk them through utilities, what their insurance is going to be. Maybe they need information for the bank. Maybe they don't know what a lawyer to call. So you do have to be there with them, and you have to make sure that you walk them through the process and check in with them. Don't just leave them until closing. We have checkpoints, so we check with them the day before closing, the week before closing, 2 weeks before closing. At least. And usually more often than that, but at the very, very least. You need to make sure that you're calling them, hey, did you get your utilities? Did you do this? Do you have your moving truck booked? Just make sure that you're there for them as part of the service because they will appreciate it. What's that?
The elevator book.
The elevator book, if it's, you know what, we do that as soon as the deal is firm if it's a condo. We call the management and we find out what the process is for booking the elevator.
We tell them to book the elevator and they can't.
You guys book the elevator?
We talk to the management and we find out what the booking process is. You can't book it. The homeowner has to do it. They have to give them a deposit. They have to do it. But if you just, here's the property phone number. I talked to Jeannie at the desk. This is what she said you have to do, so call her. Because you know, sometimes there's so many layers that you have to go through, right? Especially if it's a larger building. And that's really important. If everything's gone great with the deal, but something goes wrong before closing, it's usually your fault. It doesn't matter if it wasn't, but it's your fault, right? So if something goes wrong and you can fix it for them, or at least point them in the direction of fixing it, you've solved their problem. Right? And it's all about how they're going to feel when they move into the house.
Is there like a checklist for closing, please?
We have a checklist.
Oh, you guys.
We have a
You
big
can just
checklist.
create one as you go, right? Like,
Yeah.
All possibilities and all that, like the elevator scenario.
Yeah.
We were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, smooth day of completion. There you go. Closing day. It doesn't even matter if they sold the house before, they forget what happens on closing. They're in a condo and they book their elevator for 9 a.m. on closing day. You don't get your keys until end of day, right? We had a case a couple of years ago. It was a junior senior. She was moving out of a house she lived in for, it was in the family for 60 years. She had moved back there about 25 years ago. And she wanted her house deal to close before she closed on the condo. I said, but you can't really control that timing. She was so paranoid. She wanted to make sure, so your condo has to close no matter what, right? Like, you're closing on the condo. It doesn't matter if your house doesn't close. If it doesn't close, you're in trouble. But I mean, this is like 2 days before closing. There's nothing that's going to happen. But she was adamant, and she didn't want to book the elevator. So she booked the elevator for the day after closing. So she had her stuff on a truck and she went to sleep with her son for one night.
So it's like superstitious, that's what
No, she was just paranoid. It wouldn't matter because everything was closing, but she wanted to make sure that one closed before the next one.
people are quirky.
Right? Yeah. But again, you need to walk them through what happens on closing. You might get your keys to your new house at some point during the day, but plan on getting them at 5 o'clock. If you get them earlier, that's great. But plan on getting them at the end of the day.
Yeah, don't plan on that being your moving day.
No, but you know what? If somebody's closing on 2 properties at the same time,
Might be,
you know, it is. It's, you know, for us, it's always easier to do a bridge. So for some of you, new to real estate, a bridge happens when you close on your new property before you close on your old property. So you close on your old property on Monday, but you get your new property on Thursday. So you have to pay the bank a little bit extra, but you have 3 days to close, to clean, to move in, and do it at a more relaxed pace. If you're closing on your existing house and your new house on the same day, it's stressful. But
So you're supposed to close on the new place first.
you're not supposed to close. If
You
you
have time.
if you can, if the people have, if it doesn't cost a lot, but for some people, moving is really expensive, and every $100 it counts for something. So they might not have the funds or the desire to spend the funds, right? So for them, they want to do everything on the same day. You just say to them, that's fine. Lots of people do that. Just be prepared for it to be really stressful.
So close on the new place and then deliver your place. And if for some reason your place doesn't close, now
You're in
you
trouble.
Now you have a house to sell. Still on the market and you don't have money.
Well, you wouldn't find out that your house isn't closing on the day of closing. Actually, that's not true. That happened to me once. That happened to me once, but you usually know before that. Like, you usually have an indication of at least a few days and sometimes a week. Right? So yeah, I did actually I had a deal in, we sold it in, I think, March. And it was closing at the end of May, and it was the morning of closing. The buyer's lawyer called, or I think, you know, buyers, I don't know, somebody called and said, yeah, we need a 2-week extension for financing. Like, hello? It's the morning of closing? Yeah, and the buyer's agent was just awful. Anyway. So it happens, but it's rare that happens on closing
It
day.
didn't happen to me when I bought my house.
Really, eh?
I was about to sign, I was waiting at the lawyer office and I said, no, we can't close. What are we gonna do? So we did ask for extension time to find another mortgage. And since then, I'm always scared. Like when I do closings with my clients, I swear until the last minute, when I give them the key, I know it's done.
Right.
Because I know it happens.
What happened? It was your purchase or your sale?
Purchase. It was my own house. I was buying my own house.
Right.
And everything was approved like 3 months before. And the day that I went to sign, the lawyer said we couldn't close.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
That is
So
weird.
it seems to be like the bank did a phone call to the office and the owner was not in the office to answer the phone. So they say, oh, she's not working there. Why?
Yeah.
I gave all my documents. So they didn't fund the mortgage that day. But they were $2,000 to get extended.
So some of the stuff in here, you know, do you want to spend time at the listing appointment talking about what happens on closing day? Probably not. I mean, a lot of this stuff is, let's talk about this after the house is sold. This is the stuff that I'm going to walk you through. I'm just going to make sure that everything runs smoothly for you from contract to closing. So the factors that are most important, location, condition, and price, right? You can't change the location. The only thing you can change with a house is condition and price. And if it's in a bad location, you adjust it with price. If it's in bad condition, you adjust it with price. That is the only reason a house will not sell, is it's overpriced. Because it doesn't matter how horrible a house is, if you price it right, it'll sell. Right? So factors that get your home sold: condition, marketing, and price. So what I say to people is, you control the house, you control the condition, we control the marketing, and then neither one of us controls the market. So you give us a good house to sell, we will market the patootie out of it, and then we have to wait for the market to respond. And if you do that and I do this, and the market's still not giving us your price, that's the market telling us that our price is too high, right? And you take that outside of either one of your control. If you give me a house that's not in good condition, I'm gonna have to make it up for it in price. If I don't do the right marketing, I'm not doing my job, right? But the condition and price are tied. You do want to stress the fact that the market is out of your control. And the market is bigger than both of us, and the market will determine what the house is going to sell. It's not what you want, again, it's not what you want for it, it's not what you paid for it, it's not what you need to get out of it. It's what the market says it's worth. And today's buyers are the ones that are buying your house. It's not what happened to it in the past. Okay, so great condition sells. I think that's something that you guys can can go through on your own. And you asked me this, Joshua, a lot of this I would put into my pre-consultation package for sure. Yeah, I mean, condition pricing, I would put all of that in my pre-consultation package. So, 14-step marketing plan. If you don't have one, use this one. It's very simple. Don't underestimate good photography. There are a huge number of realtors that still walk around with their phone, take pictures of the house. It's unbelievable. I'm part of the luxury homes division for Keller Williams, and my very first luxury homes retreat, we had the director of the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing come and speak. And she got up on the stage, and we're all like sitting there waiting to hear what she's going to say. The first thing she says is, make sure you have professional photographs. Like, are you kidding me? But even in some of the upper end properties, we see it all the time. You have a $4 million property, and somebody's got like, you know, they go sideways, and it's just awful. So it doesn't matter what the price is, make sure you do professional photographs. And for those of you new, just ask others in the office who they use. So marketing, definitely cover this. I'm going through this pretty quickly now because we are getting to, we're running out of time. But make sure that if they tell you marketing is important, cover it, practice it, read it. Yeah, it's at 11 o'clock. We have 15 minutes. If ask them about open houses. You might want to do open houses, they might not. They might not want to do them no matter what. And if you really focus on open houses, you might lose the opportunity to list that place just because you're really focused on open houses. You know, we know open houses are great. We know they're great for exposure. We know now more than ever, there's more people that are buying houses from open houses than ever in the past. But if they're adamant against open houses and you're pushing them and you can't convince them, then stop. You just don't do an open house.
What's the percentage of homes that sell through an open house?
I don't know. It used to be very low. It used to be
1%.
It used to be 1 to 2%.
Really?
Oh yeah. I think it's higher now, just because more people are looking, more people are trying to do things without an agent because they think it will benefit them. We sold our last house through an open house. It was through a Thursday open house, and people came to the house. They gave me their agent's name, like they had their own agent, but they said, you know what, it really wasn't on our radar. And they came through Thursday, and I didn't hear from their agent until the morning of offer day, when he said, I have an offer for you. I said, really? They want to come back? No, they let her house. And they were the lowest of 4 offers, and I sent him away. I said, thank you, but no thank you. He wanted a chance to improve. I said, you know what, I told everybody that we were just going to do 1 round. For those of you, you know, maybe new touchy, when you have a multiple offer situation, you can sometimes send people back to improve their offers, or you can say, bring me your best offer, I'm going to make a decision on round 1. And that's what I said to everybody, because it was our own house, and I didn't want to drag out the process. And he just insisted and insisted and insisted, and I kept saying, no, like, you are so out of the ballpark that, like, it won't matter, like, it won't matter how much you improve. He improved 15% and they got the house. That was from the Thursday open house.
You improved
15. He had never been in the house.
Wow.
I double-ended our neighbor's house across from me for $1.25 million on an open house. But we do a lot of double-ending on our farm because people just, they're out. So I don't know what the percentage is. I just know that I always want to do open houses. 20% of our entire business on an annual basis is from open houses, either from the one that I did last weekend or from the one I did 5, 10, 15 years ago and stayed in touch with somebody because that's how I met them at the open house. So do open houses whenever you can. Just make sure you stay in touch, right? Because the number, even though 20% of our business is done from open houses, only a tiny percentage of that is the people that went to that house, right? So you're asking what percentage of people buy that house. Pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but it's still big enough to actually make it worthwhile to do. Kathy?
I just wanted to know double-ended, what does that mean? Is it when you
It
sell?
means if you're the listing agent and you represent, you're the listing brokerage and you represent the buyer as well.
Oh,
So
Thank you.
are you on Julie's team?
yeah.
Okay, so if you hold an open house on Julie's listing,
Yeah.
and you have the buyer, even though it's Julie's listing, I mean, you're on a team and you're in the same brokerage, so it's called double ending.
Okay.
Multiple
Thank you.
representation is the legal name for it. But if Danuta has a listing and you have a buyer for it, that's still multiple representation.
Right.
It's just not double ending because you're not the listing and the buying agent, but the contract for the listing is with the brokerage, not with the individual agent. So it's still going to be multiple representation, even if you have two different agents from the same brokerage.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, so marketing, talk about that, if it's important to them. If it's not, gloss over it. Global exposure, that's really important right now to let people know about, because even though Keller Williams has grown incredibly well, there's still people that don't know much about Keller Williams, so it's always important to say a little bit about the company. Skip this. This is one of the things I'm telling Keller Williams International we don't have, because we don't have Trulia, and hopefully Zillow will die a slow, miserable death. So for me, this is right about where I will stop and take a look at the house. So we've talked about motivation, we've talked about marketing. Before I look at the house, are there any other questions that you might have? Because they know we haven't covered price and fees yet, right? Unless they ask, and once they talk about this, once you talk about the marketing and everything that you do they want to ask you about commissions? Do you want to bring commissions up at that point? Maybe, right? It really depends. So now that we've talked about marketing and motivation, we've talked about you, we've asked about you. Before I look at the house, do you have any other questions? Well, yeah, page 7 or whatever. Or no, we're good. I always try to look at the house on my own, because if you go through the house with them, that'll greatly increase the time that you're there. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this part of the appointment, I would like to take a look at the house on my own, because it helps me look at the house through the eyes of a buyer. When you decide to list with me, we will do a much more thorough walkthrough together, so that I can get all of the features and benefits of the house from you to put into our marketing. This walkthrough will be pretty short. 5-10 minutes at the very most. And I tell you that because as professionals, we see a lot of homes, we know what we're looking for. If you don't tell them that, you come back fast, they're like, did you even look at my house? Right? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to go through the whole house, every single inch with them, because they're going to want to show you everything they did and what's great about it and why it's worth, and you don't even have the listing, and you're wasting your time. Like, our time is our most valuable resource, right? It's our time and our knowledge. Sharing your knowledge with them, don't let them waste your time. Sometimes you just can't get around it. So you really want to walk you through the house, and you know what? If that's the case, then do it. You don't want to put them off by really putting your foot down on this. But if you don't let them know that you want to do the walkthrough on your own, you'll never have the opportunity to do the walkthrough on your own. And then make some short notes, but yeah, keep it brief. You don't need to know every single thing unless there's something that's a really important upgrade and you can say, is there anything that I won't see?
They will not feel uncomfortable like letting you go walk through the house by yourself and you don't know who you are.
Well, just know who you are. They should know who you are.
You just came to give me the price for my house, right?
Well, it depends. If you're just doing if you're just there for a quick price, then you didn't go through all of this. I'm just sharing with you what I do and what helps maximize our time, right? If you have a lot of time on your hands and maybe you want to walk through the house and establish a relationship with them, then that's up to you. Right? For us, it's better to take a 5-10 minute walk through and make sure we come back and talk about the important part. Then you're getting in, you do want to talk about whether it's a buyer market or a seller's market. I don't think we've been in the buyer's market for a while, except for last May. So this stuff, price to sell. So again, you're going to be covering pricing in another session. I highlighted this for me, and we already talked about this. Price is not what the sellers need or want from the sale. It's not what the sellers paid originally, or what the house down the street sold for, or what their hairdresser told them it was worth. And it's not what another website tells them it's worth. So this is directly aimed at Zillow, because Zillow does estimates, which are about as accurate as what MPAC says our properties are worth. Yeah, just if it really comes into Canada the way they say it will, it'll be just brutal. But just make sure you cover that, because if they're doing this estimate or there's some sort of other website that tells them what the house is worth, cover this ahead of time, because all of those things that we just mentioned are going to be wrong. And it's what the market says it's worth and what the recent sales say it's worth. And then what our competition is. So you do that up front, you set the expectation. Price is determined by the market, what real buyers will actually offer and competing sellers are accepting. So the good thing about an increased inventory is buyers have more to choose from. Sellers, increased inventory means more competition. So if you're priced higher than your neighbor's house down the street, then your house is going to sell. So this is page 55. So make sure, highlight this and make sure you read it, because it's really important. Okay, comparative property. So you're getting into the pricing now, which again you'll cover in the next session. But make sure you go through this and tell them that you've been doing in-depth research. So based on your recent research and your past experience, this is what the market says the house is worth. Now, if you've been able to get from them what they think the house is worth, then perhaps you're in a better position to actually talk to that. But you watch your body language. You're talking about this. When you're looking at comparables, you can say, well, how do you think this compares to yours? Oh, mine's way nicer than that. Right? So you have a sense.
Oh yeah, I went to see this house.
It's awful. Do you know what they had in their basement?
Yeah.
Right. Then you know you're going to have pricing war on your hands. So the CMA is going to go in here. But there's a few other really, really good scripts in here, and a lot of them have to do with actual closing. So asking, after looking at everything I've presented about the condition and price, what are your thoughts? Are we on the same wavelength? Do you agree with the pricing recommendations? Is this what you like to list your home for? No, I think it's worth much more. Or, yeah, that seems fair. Great. Are you ready to make a decision to work with me? It's simple, right? That's not high pressure. Are you ready to make a decision? Should we sign the contract? If you don't ask that, if you're waiting for them to say, okay, then you might be missing an opportunity. You've got to ask the questions. And sometimes you have to ask them more than once, because they might come up with something. Oh, you're talking about, commission. Well, your commission is too high. They go back to the marketing. And what is it? What is it that you'd like to omit? Right, so there's a lot of things that go into this, and hopefully by the time you've talked about everything in your presentation, there are no objections, because an objection is just an unanswered question, and it does give you an opportunity to answer it and overcome it. So, listing agreement. So again, these are really good trial closes. Actually, they're good closes. Are we ready to move ahead on this? Is there anything we need to do before we get started? Would you like me to handle the sale of your home? But get comfortable asking those direct questions, right? They're pretty simple. They're not threatening, they're not high pressure. Are you ready? This one's a little wordy. Are you ready to decide to choose me to represent you in the sale of your home? Yeah, that's a little wordy.
Can't you just ask did I get the job?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The point is, you gotta ask
the question though. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta ask. Okay, how did we do?
Yeah.
Should we get going? How did I do? Do you want to work with me? Right? Like it's so simple. People are looking for something weird. Whatever it is, ask a question that will have them say yes. And if they don't say yes, okay, tell me what you need to think about. What is it that we haven't covered? What is it that you still need clarity on? Well, we want to think about it. That's the
How do you
worst.
handle, no, you've been fantastic, but we want to, we're interviewing other agents. How do you handle that objection?
Well, you should know that up front, okay? So it really depends. If you've done a really, really good job, chances are they might not. Say, oh, you told me that up front, I absolutely understand that. What have we not covered that you might want to hear from someone else?
Well, he's my brother-in-law. I feel obligated.
You should have asked that in your pre-qualified question, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a really tough one.
Yeah, it is.
Because if you didn't ask, and this is why the pre-qualifying questions are so important, because if you know that up front, you could have addressed that already before they bring it up as an objection.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
If that's what they throw at you at the end of a
Yeah,
meeting,
it's like, really?
right.
But you know what, I remember at Paul, they had this question, and they recommended you ask for his number, the Platino number, so you can call him.
Yeah.
Because they say sometimes that Platino doesn't work in the area, he doesn't know the area, and he would be happy for a fee,
Sure.
his end to work with you.
Sure, except most agents will take business anywhere just to get the business.
Yeah.
Right? But again, if you're asking that question up front, so remember the question on, are you thinking of selling yourself using a discount brokerage or using a family member?
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Know that up
if you
front.
ask something that pointed, they will tell you. If you ask that and they say no, and then they throw that at you,
Yeah.
you can't control for that, right? So if you know that ahead of time, then you can build things in along the line that, so did you talk to your brother-in-law about this? Okay, so things like that, and where does he work? If he's out of area, does he know about, so I went into all of these homes and I saw all of them before they sold, so I know exactly how yours compares.
Right.
I know all of the agents, I know all of that.
Yeah.
Is he positioned in that?
Is he positioned that? Is he he's in Mississauga? Oh, okay. Well, he's probably not quite as current.
Exactly, and you know what, if they still feel bad, say, you know what, I really get the sense that you'd like to hire me. Why don't we give your brother-in-law a referral, that way he gets compensated and you can still have the best representation of yourself. Sometimes it'll work.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to work. Right, and they might have been just shopping price. Right, to see if their brother-in-law was right in his estimate. And you can do as much as humanly possible. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just can't control people, just don't give you the right information. But if you didn't ask the question, then it's not your fault, right? If they weren't honest with you, that's not your fault. If you didn't ask the question, that's definitely your fault. Right. Okay, so I would not explain the listing agreement until you actually have a listing. And seller's disclosures, I actually took that out of here because we don't have mandatory disclosures like they do in the US. And that's one of the things that I'm going to take out. What's that?
So property information sheet, is that what you're talking about?
They have a different set of disclosures. Yeah, we have that, most people don't do it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Moving checklist, once they tell us that they're working with us, that's when we give that to them. We have a whole binder where they put their moving checklist, they have room for their contracts, they have a space where people want to keep the marketing, they really want to keep the feature sheets, they want to go over the house. But definitely moving checklist and end of appointment, I would only do that after they say yes, I'm going to list with you. And don't be afraid to hand them the pen. Okay, here. Should we start? Should we go? Can we jump out of it? If you have that kind of relationship, if they're really formal and really stodgy, you don't want to do it because that'll turn them off. And again, that's where the reading the people comes into play, right? Right, so that was 2 hours and we barely got to the end of the material. How are you guys supposed to practice? Okay, so let me, right, so putting it all together, which is going to be the most helpful for you. So, do you guys have the ability to maybe just get a role partner between you and practice some of this? There's a lot of stuff here.
We have our calling groups in the morning that we practice all our scripts in the morning.
Okay.
So I think that would be a good opportunity to do that.
Right. Okay, great. Objections though, that's kind of critical too. So make sure you read through that. And but there's some really, actually there's a really good video from Tony and Diana on Connect, and it's like 15 minutes of objections. So find it and listen to it. It's really good. Yeah, Philip
On the new Connect, KW Connect?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, Philip just told me about it.
What's the name? Diana and Tony?
Diana and Tony. Tony did sell Diana to Costa, she created gold. Oh, Kathy,
Yes.
here you have a little checklist of things to change. It's page 67. Right, so this is really just who you notify, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so please do some practicing. So for those of you who are new, objection, you will very rarely get how long have you been in the business unless you really sound like you don't know what you're talking about. So this is something you might even, if you're very, very new, might want to bring up ahead of time. You know what, I have just joined the business, I'm on a great team, I'm in a great office, whatever. Focus on that, say, I know, I not only have the experience of my team or my office or whoever behind me, I have the energy and time to devote to you, to make sure I take care of you. Because you know there's 54,000 realtors right now on the Toronto Real Estate Board. Is it 57?
Yeah.
And more than half of them did one or none.
Yeah, it's
Last year.
over 57.
Jesus.
Means there's lots of room
Excuse me.
for us to do something.
It's a small what?
I said more than half of them last year did 0 or
Yeah.
1 deals.
Yeah.
So that means there's lots of room out there for.
Okay, so your next class, you're going to be doing the pricing.
And when is that?
I don't know
Friday.
class.
Friday.
I don't know when your classes are. The next one.
Okay.
The next one, just make sure you do your missions. So
Monday,
you
Wednesday,
guys kind of
Friday.
do your missions in your,
Monday,
One,
yeah.
you're doing your missions and your calling at the same time, essentially?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, guys. If you want those pre-qualifying questions, make sure to give me a card. And please fill out your evaluation forms for Lizanne and Aresta.